And that about does it for the winch strap delete mod. Maybe it's just me, but that video felt a little bit shorter than normal. I guess I gotta show you guys something else. Welcome back to the Tacomaholic channel, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Make your day and my day a little brighter by going ahead and subscribing now so you're up to date on everything related to Tacomas. All right, everybody, got a quick maintenance video for you guys today showing you how to properly clean your MAF or mass airflow sensor. Of course, if you are an experienced Tacoma owner, very mechanically inclined, this video is probably not going to be for you, but if you are a beginner to Tacomas and working on vehicles in general, then it's probably right up your alley. Okay, so before I actually show you how to clean, remove, all that for the mass airflow sensor, what is it, where is it located, all that stuff. So I got my hood popped. This is the 4.0 V6 for the second gen Tacomas. I have removed that plastic cover, which I have found is relatively useless anyway. Whenever I go off-roading, I still have all kinds of dirt under it, so I just remove it in general. So if you have yours on there, you will need to remove that. It's just two 10mm bolts, one on each side. And then as we zoom in here, this is your mass airflow sensor. You can see this is your air box where you're going to change your engine air filter. There's your throttle body. It is right there in between. You can see it is plugged in, and this is an expensive piece. I think if you have to outright replace this, I want to say it's like $600 for the part. Probably not too much for the labor because it really literally just plugs in and bolts down and you are good to go. The purpose of your MAF or mass airflow sensor is to tell your engine how much air is going into it, so the computer can tell your fuel injectors to either add or decrease fuel as needed. Of course, if the readings on this are off, it's going to affect your performance, your horsepower, your gas mileage. The mass airflow sensor does this by heating a small coil or a bulb or a wire within here. I will show you that in just a second when I remove it. And then based on how much air is passing over that heated coil and how much it cools, the computer relays to the fuel injectors how much fuel to put into your engine. It's that simple, but again, expensive part if you break it. The good news is this is a very quick install, not even an install, it's just a cleaning of your mass airflow sensor, because obviously as you drive around, depending on where you live, you know, if you have particulate matter, like say in a desert, in the air, the atmosphere, all that air getting sucked to your engine, you're gonna get little micro pieces of grime, dirt, gunk, funky material all over your mass airflow sensor heating coil, which of course is gonna affect the reading that your computer gives your fuel injectors, which again, affect your horsepower, gas mileage. Gas mileage is probably the one we're all worried about as Tacoma drivers. So to sum up, you do not wanna get your mass airflow sensor covered in deer tay.
Joe Deer Tay.
And all you need to do this basic maintenance is a few basic hand tools, which I will go over now. And if you are looking for any of these in particular, links for all this stuff down in the description below, except for the cardboard. You should know where to get that. First up, of course, you do need your mass airflow sensor cleaner. I always go with the CRC brand. It's been around forever. It's relatively cheap. These cleaners by CRC are usually like $5 a can, and they make it literally for everything. MAF cleaner, brake cleaner, throttle body, you name it. So CRC is usually the way to go. You will need a smaller Phillips head screwdriver, a 10mm socket. Whenever I'm removing like hardware in the engine bay, I like to use one of these magnetic trays just to keep everything secure when you're not using it. Since we are using chemicals to clean the MAF, a pair of gloves is recommended, and of course with safety glasses. And just to catch any overspray of the cleaner, just get a smaller piece of cardboard. Now with the hood popped, I did mention this is an electrical component. You can see it plugs right in there. Whenever you're working with electrical stuff, even though you'd probably save just unplugging this, I'm going to go ahead and remove the negative lead on my battery, which is just that 10mm socket right here, just to disconnect this, because even though the risk of having your MAF short or have any kind of electrical issue when your battery is plugged in is probably minimal, the chance of that happening is 0 if the negative cable on your battery is unplugged, so that is what I'm going to do. And whenever you are removing the negative battery cable for anything you're doing under the hood, always make sure it's tucked out of the way where it's not going to move and contact metal. So I always just tuck it right here on the top of the battery. You can see even by jiggling it, unless there's a large earthquake, which rarely happens here in Northern Virginia, You Southern California guys might have to worry about that, but this is not going anywhere. Next up, we are going to go ahead and unplug the electrical connector from the mass airflow sensor body. You should be able to just do this by hand by depressing the clip right here and pulling it out to the passenger side of the vehicle. If not, maybe you could use some pliers or like a screwdriver to sort of lift it from the inside of the tab right here. Whatever you do, just make sure you don't damage the wires right here, obviously. I found that was pretty easy just by depressing the middle and just giving it a little bit of a jiggle.
All you gotta do is jiggle it. You just get it in there. Jiggle it, jiggle it.
After that, here is a top view of the MAF. You can see there are just two Phillips head screws, one right here in the front and the other sort of diagonal across, even though they're relatively in a straight line toward the back. So go ahead and remove those with a finer tipped Phillips screwdriver. These are very small screws, so just be careful not to drop them in your engine bay. That's why I recommend using the magnetic tray, so to hold them securely when not in use. With the two Phillips head screws out, this is relatively loose. You can see just by shaking it a little bit. Obviously you don't want to just jerk this out and risk damaging the heating element which on the inside, which is very fragile. So I'm just going to sort of slowly, sort of shake it back and forth little by little, because I don't want it to pop free and risk damaging anything. Because again, this is about $600 if you break that piece. There you can see it's sort of pop free. It does have like a plastic protective covering over it, so don't be paranoid about it, but this is the MAF, and we'll talk about this more in just a second. After removing the mat, you can see it does leave an opening, so if it's a particularly windy day or you live in a dirtier environment, maybe go ahead and put a rag or cloth, a piece of blue tape over this so matter is not going to get blown in there, which is going to get directly sucked into your engine. Alright everybody, here is the mass airflow sensor from my 2014 Toyota Tacoma, free from the engine. Here, right here on the right side, you can see is the first element I'll be cleaning. It's got like a darkened bulb at the top with a regular metal shaft, and it does have a plastic protection around it. So don't be paranoid about snapping it, but when you are cleaning this, anything on your mass airflow sensor, don't use brushes or bristles or anything. Even if it's something extremely fine like a paintbrush, you don't want to risk snapping this, damaging it, scratching it, anything. Only use the spray cleaner of your choice, like in my case, the CRC. That stuff will do its job, trust me. So we will be cleaning that. I'll be cleaning the whole underside also. Pretty much everything short of the electrical connectors right there. It's pretty dark on the inside. You're probably not going to be able to see it, but also down the main tube right here, there are a few more metal sensors I will be cleaning. There is a nozzle on the CRC cleaner, so you can just sort of, from the top, again, don't jam the nozzle in there. You can spray that, clean it out, and then pour it out. The CRC cleaner does dry very fast, especially if it is a warmer day. And then the same thing on the backside right here. Alright guys, got the nozzle on my CRC cleaner ready to go, getting my gloves on, got my safety glasses on, wearing the gloves because I'm actually going to hold this so I can rotate it around versus just spraying it while it's static, risk knocking it over, all that. Again, the cleaner dries very quickly, so don't be afraid to use too much. This can should last a very long time, even if you're cleaning your mass airflow sensor a few times a year, which is what I do. I don't know if the Toyota manual actually recommends like a mileage or a time checkpoint to do this, but I just do mine a few times a year. As you can see, it literally takes 5 minutes, and most of that is just waiting for the cleaner to dry. So like I mentioned, I'm just going to avoid spraying the plugs right here. So I'm just grabbing it by the base right there, careful not to touch any of the elements. I'm going to be cleaning the plastic as well, even though you probably don't have to. So I'm just going to start on the outside and then work my way in. Do make sure to get both sides of the heating elements. So the outside one is done. I'm going to sort of slosh this in here and then empty it out again on both sides. Sort of knock off any excess I can, then I'm just going to sit this out to let it air dry. It's not exactly a sunny day here in Northern Virginia, sort of overcast. but this should still be dry in about 5 to 10 minutes. Obviously, you probably don't want to put this in when it's wet, so just give it a little longer to dry just to be safe.
One eternity later.
Here is the pristine MAF, nice and cleaned. And to reinstall this where it needs to go, we're just going to reverse the process. First up, we will reinsert the mass airflow sensor back into the correct orientation, just straight down, nice and slow. When you have it so it's touching the gasket, just give it a nice press so it's firmly seated on top of where the Phillips head screws will attach. Reinstall both of these small Phillips head screws. You want to just hand tighten them. They don't have any torque specs. Just don't over tighten them and risk stripping it. Again, be careful not to drop these into your engine bay. Can happen to anybody. I like to get the first side sort of not completely tightened, maybe like 80-90%, just so it's holding it securely. Then do the other side, then tighten them both down so they're nice and tight. And do make sure these are tight so you don't leave any gap between the bottom of the MAF and the gasket, which of course could let in extra crud sucked into your engine. Go ahead and plug the sensor back in until you hear the nice click. And of course, reattach the negative battery cable to your battery. Making sure it's nice and secure so it's not loose, can come off while you're driving. Good. Alright everybody, quick avoid the Stealership video today showing you how and why you need to clean your mass airflow sensor on your Tacoma. If you found the video useful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and comment below. Let me know if you plan on tackling this maintenance yourself. As always, thank you so much for supporting the channel by watching this video. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next video.